going to go through some various information, kind of personal financial information, as well as financial aid details and some information that you would need to know. First thing I would say is that making smart financial decisions, it starts now. It doesn't start a week from now. It doesn't start a month from now. It doesn't start once you graduate or once you start your dream career. It starts now. And so we're going to go over, just to begin, a few things that would be good habits to put into place. The first would be to make a monthly budget. How many of you make a monthly budget? Awesome. Okay, see a few hands up. I know sometimes you hear the word budget and it feels restrictive, like you can't spend your money in the way you want to. But really, when you create a budget, you're telling your money where to go. And just keeping track of that, and so that you do have money to do the things that you want to do, and you don't see your money just kind of dwindling away from a bunch of stops at Casey's to get a pop and a donut or a slice of pizza. Another thing would be to start a savings account. How many of you put money into a savings account every month? Great. There's a lot of hands on that one. That is a very good habit to start. It's good to put something in every month. I know for myself, if I wait till the end of the month, and so I've paid all my bills and I'm going to wait to the end to see what I have left to put in savings, probably I'm not going to put anything into savings. So something that you really need to do, or something that I do, I find it very helpful, is I set up kind of an automatic transfer from my checking to my savings account. That happens as soon as my paycheck is deposited. Money goes directly into savings. I include savings as an expense on my budget. And so that keeps me on track with continuing to save and not waiting till the end of the month to see if there's something there to put into saving. Okay, just another good habit is just spending your money wisely. You guys, it's so easy to have your paycheck and just it to be gone, like before your eyes. You know, you just spent it on various things, and you get to the end of that paycheck and you're thinking, what in the world happened to my money? What happened to my paycheck? So really thinking through, and that's another reason why the budget is so important, but really thinking through your purchases and making sure you're spending your money like you want to. Okay, so using cash instead of cards and checks. I often hear people say that it's good to have cash, spend cash, because we more easily just swipe a card. What do you guys think? Do you more easily just swipe a card, or is it harder for you to part with cash? Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I find for myself that I really can't have a lot of cash, or I spend that very quickly. Or I have 3 teenage daughters, and they spend that for me. So I find it better not to have as much cash. But whatever works for you, you just find that thing that helps you control your spending, whether it be to use cash or debit card. Also, it can be very useful to say you set your budget and you get the cash out for that. Like if you decide cash is the way you want to go, to say, okay, this is how much I'm going to spend in groceries for the month or for during this paycheck, and you set that cash aside and you just use from that. Gas, any different things could be just miscellaneous. You can have fun and have that in cash to use. Also, just kind of using the 3-day rule for big purchases. Have you ever walked into a store or saw something online and you're like, I want that and I want it now, and then had buyer's remorse after that? It's really good to step back, think about it. Is this something I really need, something I really want? Is this something that I have the money for? If I buy this, am I going to have the money I need to be able to pay the rest of my bills for the month? Just step back and think about it. Give yourself that time to make that decision at the end of the 3 days or whatever you decide, to do. And and you still need it, you still want it, you decide you have the money for it, well then sure, go ahead. But it is a good practice just to give yourself that time for those larger purchases. It is very important to pay your bills on time. Setting up auto pay can be very helpful with that. I feel like I'm very good at paying my bills on time, but I have this one bill that in the past I would be late on. I would get a $5 late fee every time I was late, and that was really frustrating, even though it's just $5. That adds up over time. So finally they came out with auto pay. I set that up. I haven't been late on a payment since, haven't had those pesky $5 late fees added. So do any of you have auto pay set up maybe for a car payment or just various things? Yeah, that can be really helpful, that you know that every month this is going to come out at this time. You just want to make sure you actually have money in your account to cover that payment that's going to be coming out. Another thing would be just paying attention to your credit score. How many of you kind of understand how a credit score works, or have just even knew that credit score was a thing? Okay. All right. I feel like I was well into my 20s before I even realized that the credit score was a thing. So we're definitely going to cover that just a little bit. I have a video I'm going to show you here in just a moment. Just wanted to give you, I know we talked about the budget a little bit, but just to look at, it can be so simple. There's a lot of apps out there for creating a budget. You can also, I like to use an Excel spreadsheet. You can use paper and pencil, whatever you want to use. But basically you're just looking at estimated monthly income, subtracting then your expenses from that. And don't just include like car payment or Verizon bill or things like that. Make sure you're thinking about transportation for gas, maybe oil change, those kind of things. Include those in your budget. Food, drinks, entertainment, clothing, and savings, including savings as one of your expenses. Now, you may be saying, I'm a college student. I don't have a lot of income, and maybe you don't have much income, and maybe you don't have much expenses, but it's still, even with a very minimal amount of income, things like that, you can get into this good habit of doing a monthly budget. Now, income minus expenses, of course, equals your ending balance, and your expenses should be less than or equal to your income. Now, if your expenses are greater than your income, what are your two options for remedying that situation? Yep, increase your income, definitely. Yes, or lower your expenses. Those are your two options. So you might need to look through and say, what can go? What can, what can I get rid of? What can I, decrease so that I can lower those expenses? Or it might be, I need to see if I can get some more hours at work, or I need to get another part-time job. And I know right now you're college students and that's your focus. But you do want to obviously make sure your expenses aren't greater than your income. All right, so we're going to watch this video real quick. I'll get it started. And of course, it worked the last time, so we probably will have. Okay. We might just skip that. Did you all get the handout for? Okay, great. Okay, we're having a little bit of a, there we go. We'll just, maybe the video could be posted on Blackboard later so they could watch that. And every group that I've spoke to, it's worked this year. And so, of course, now it's not. But, okay, so 6 surprising ways your credit score affects your everyday life. Number 1, and you can refer to your sheets that are handed out. There's a lot more detail on those sheets, and I'm sure you guys are all going to go home and just pour over these. But anyway, these are the 6, but you do have more details on your sheet. Number 1, your score can save or cost you money. All right, so if you have a really good credit score, you're probably going to get some pretty nice low interest rates when you're getting a car loan or you're getting a home loan. So this is definitely going to save you money over the life of that loan. Then if you have a low credit score, it's going to cost you more money, or you may not be able to get the loan. You may not be approved for a loan if you have a low credit score. So it definitely can save or cost you money. Number 2, your score can influence your career. More and more employers are running credit checks through the employment process. So you apply for a job and you think, oh, I'm going to turn in my information. I'm going to go for an interview. But also they're looking at a credit score, looking at your credit report, because it tells them something. If you have a low credit score, that could kind of let them know that's how you handle your finances, and they could make decisions based on your employment, based off of that score. Number 3, your score can influence where you live. So say you've picked out this awesome, perfect apartment. This is where you want to live. You go, and the landlord is going to run a credit check to see if they want to let you rent their apartment. And if you have a low credit score, they're most likely not going to rent you that apartment. They want to show someone, they want that credit score to show, okay, this is someone who's reliable, somebody who's trustworthy, someone who's going to pay their rent every month. So you may end up living in that somewhere that no one else wants to live. But it's something to keep in mind, that credit score is used for a lot of different things, and it's very important. And I know right now, probably most of you, a lot of you don't have much of a credit score because you just don't have much credit history. But it is very important that you are only building that credit score in a positive manner. Make sure you're not taking out a credit card and then not making payments on it, doing things that will hurt your credit score. And then we're going to talk about here in a few minutes the importance of repaying student loans and the effect it can have on your credit score as well. Number 4, the credit score affects your ability to refinance. Often, especially with a home loan, interest rates might go down. You're able to refinance that home loan and save yourself some money. If you have a poor credit score, you may lose those abilities to refinance or ability to be able to get that lower interest rate. And number 5, your score could affect your love life. That is a surprising way that your credit score affects your everyday life. It says more and more with today's economy and everything like that, that a potential mate could be evaluating your credit history as well as your dating history. That when you marry someone, you are taking on their debt, you're taking on their credit history, and it can affect all things, affect household, kind of decisions that you're making. So it's something to look at, and you can look at more details on the sheets in front of you. Number 6, your credit score is a long-term process, and that is so true. Like I said, many of you probably hardly have a credit score, and so over time, you're going to be building that credit score, and you want to make sure you're impacting it positively, and you are doing good things to build that, and that means keeping debt low. Often they say it's better to use some credit than to not use any at all. But in saying that, still, keep in mind, a lot of times, I know I got my first credit card while I was in college, and I thought, yes, this is awesome. And so you want to really keep that in mind at this time. You're going to be hit up for these type of things. Don't rack up credit cards. Don't take out a credit card at every department store you go to and rack it up, and then especially then not repay. And so you can be doing things to positively affect. If you have a car loan, make sure you're making those payments and that you're paying that back. And then over time and over, using these good habits that I know that you're going to be putting into place if you haven't already, then you'll build a good, strong credit score. All right, so now we're going to talk about some things as it relates to financial aid. Because currently, right now in your lives, this is the point you're at. You are college students. And so making smart financial decisions is going to be applying for financial aid, getting help in paying for your college, filling out the FAFSA. The FAFSA stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Right now, the 2021 FAFSA has opened up. It opened up on October 1st. That's for next academic year. You can come into the financial aid office with all of your tax documents for yourself and your parents, as well as your FSA IDs. And come in there. We'll be glad to help you complete your FAFSA. We're having a FAFSA frenzy next week on Monday and Tuesday. You'd be welcome to come in and we'll help you do your FAFSA then. But really, anytime you want to stop by the office when we're open, there's always someone there available to help you fill out your FAFSA. It is important, I would say, fill out your FAFSA as soon as possible. One thing, you're not forgetting about it. You're not pushing it off till a later date. You definitely want to have your FAFSA done by February 1st. That's the state deadline for Missouri Access Grants. So you definitely want to have it done by then. You do have to complete a FAFSA every year. The FAFSA will determine if you qualify for any grants, and that's free money, and we like free money, or gift aid that you don't have to repay. It will show you if you qualify for student loans. That's borrowed money that does have to be repaid. And then it can also tell us if you qualify for work study, which is earned money, jobs on campus. So once you qualify for financial aid, you want to make sure you're continuing to be eligible for that aid. So satisfactory academic progress, or we call it SAP, requires you to meet certain guidelines. So, is all of you in your first semester at NCMC, since you're in this class? Okay. All right. So at the end of this semester, this fall semester, we're going to check in the financial aid office, we're going to check your GPA, and we're going to check your completion rate. And we're going to make sure that you have at least a 2.0 cumulative GPA, and we're also going to make sure that you've completed at least 67% of the coursework that you attempted this semester. Now, if you've met those, great. You continue on in a good standing. If you're below either one of those guidelines, then you're going to be on financial aid warning. When you're on warning, you have one semester to get those grades up, increase that completion rate, and so at the end of the spring, we'll check again. And then if you have met the standards, great. You're back into a good standing. If you're still not meeting these standards, you'll be on financial aid suspension. And that prevents you from receiving Title IV aid. It prevents you from receiving A+ if you're not meeting these standards. So it is very important that right now, we're past midterm at this point, just a few more weeks left in the semester. You want to finish strong. You want to make sure you're attending class, that you are doing all the things, turning in the homework, studying hard for the exam, seeking out the services we have on campus to help you be successful in your classes so that you can continue to be eligible for financial aid. Now, the third guideline you'll see up here is graduate within 150% of the credits necessary for the degree you're seeking. So for an AA transfer degree that requires 60 credit hours, if you have earned 90 credit hours or attempted 90, then you would be automatically put on financial aid suspension at that point because you've been here a while, you've earned a lot of credits, and you haven't received a degree. Now, with all of this, we do have an appeal process, but it's a process and it's paperwork, and nothing's guaranteed that you would have an approved appeal. So you're much better off just meeting these guidelines right from the very beginning and being successful in this way. So I've already mentioned other eligibility requirements, just completing that FAFSA, attending classes. If you do have student loans, you want to make sure you're enrolled in at least 6 credit hours and that you continue to be, so that you won't go into repayment and so that you'll be eligible for future loan disbursements. Okay, we're going to talk about student loans just for a moment here. The first step in student loans is just applying for the loan. You do those online steps, the entrance counseling, the master promissory note. The loan is dispersed to you. It's applied to your account. So during the time while you're in school, you're not required to make payments on these loans. So then we go to the next well, hold on a second here. I'm going to flip back and forth. And then we go to the next stage, which would be graduation. Now, also, if you just quit going to school and you're not enrolled in at least 6 credit hours, you're going to enter into a time called the grace period. Grace period is a 6-month period of time that you don't have to pay loans back during this time as well. This gives you time after you graduate to get a job, to get established, to set up a repayment plan, and then you're going to enter into loan repayment. There are a lot of options with loan repayment. And so if you're going through a time that you're like, okay, I have a job, but I'm not making very much, and I just can't afford big loan, payments, you're going to contact your loan servicer. Your loan servicer it's a federal servicer that you're assigned to as soon as you take out the loan. And they are your customer service contact. And they will help you if you change your address, change your email, you're just having a hard time, you've gone through a medical issues and you're not able to work as much, or you have a lot of medical bills and you're having trouble repaying your student loans, contact your loan servicer. They are there to help you. And then they can get you set up on possibly, like, if you're going through just a time that you're not able to make payments, they could possibly set you up on forbearance where you're not required to make payments during that time. These are some of our federal loan servicers: Nelnet, Sallie Mae, Navient, Great Lakes, FedLoan. And like I said, there are a lot of repayment options, so it's never good to ignore your loan servicer. Even if you're having a hard time making payments, don't ignore your loan servicer. They're there to help you. Answer their calls. Let them do what they're there to help with. And this graph just kind of gives us details, all the different repayment plans. There's a standard repayment plan. It's 120 months, 10 years. And then we go all the way. There's ones that you can pay off your payments less, but it's going to take you longer to repay it, so there's going to be more interest. But there's options because you want to stay current with your student loan repayments or student loan payments. We already mentioned deferment, forbearance for special situations where you're not able to pay. Deferment could be in-school deferment. Maybe you graduate and then you decide to go back to school, and then your loans would be on an in-school deferment status so that you're not required to pay while you're going back to school. Now, if you're repaying your loans and you're late on a payment, that is considered delinquent. You're delinquent on those loan payments. If you're delinquent for 270 days or more, your loan is going to go into default. And student loan default, it can be prevented. There's so many different options, and you think 270 days, that's 9 months. That's 9 months of just ignoring your loan servicer. I don't know, going la, 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 I don't hear anything. You've got to be aware. You've got to be paying attention. You've got to understand that student loans have to be repaid because the consequences are very serious to defaulting on your student loans. Some of the consequences are, here's a little list up here for you. Damaged credit rating. That is one of the biggest consequences. Hurting your ability to be able to buy a car, a house, get a credit card. That poor credit rating, it will remain on your report for 7 years, even after you've paid off the loan. Also, you can have your taxes withheld. So you thought you were getting a tax refund. Surprise, it's all being taken to repay your student loan. Also, your wages can be garnished. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. That's kind of embarrassing if your human resource department is saying, okay, I've got to garnish your wages because it's got to go pay for your defaulted student loan. So you don't want to have to face these consequences, and that's why we feel it's so important for you to understand the importance of repaying your student loans. Avoiding default, only borrow what you need. Right now, during this time while you're in school, each semester, because you're getting ready to enroll in classes for the spring, look at those charges. Look at what aid you have. Look into what scholarships you can apply for. Anything to help pay where you can reduce maybe that amount you're taking out in student loans, and just to help so that when you graduate, you don't have such a high balance of student loan debt. And definitely, again, like I said, just keep track of your loan amounts, how much you owe, how much you've paid off, and if you're struggling, contact your loan servicer. 3 of the biggest reasons why students default on student loans is completion, not finishing their degree. And it kind of makes sense, because if you don't finish your degree, then you don't have the degree that's going to get you the job, that's going to get you the pay, that's going to help you to be able to repay your student loans. So finish strong. Keep on going. Get your degree. You're here today. Like I said, you've made it past midterm, but finish strong. Go into finals ready and prepared, and then continue that on for the next semester and keep on going. And then another reason why students default is lack of employment post-graduation. So this being your first semester, this is a real good time to kind of figure out, okay, ultimately, what do I want to do with my life? What do I want to be when I grow up? You want to make sure, whatever degree that you go for, that there's going to be a job available for you in that field. And then lack of financial education. I know you'd be surprised, but we have people call us after they graduate and say that they didn't understand that student loans had to be repaid. Student loans are a loan. It's a loan. You do have to repay that. And I just have a couple of slides left for you. We've almost made it through. Just a couple of statistics. Nationwide, the default rate is 10.1%, and that's 4.5 million borrowers from over 6,000 schools. They went into repayment. 458,000 of these borrowers defaulted on their student loans. I think about 458,000 people across our nation who are dealing with the consequences of default and going through that. And for sure, we do not want that for any of you. At NCMC, unfortunately, our default rate is even higher than the nation's. It's 14.3%. 370 borrowers who are students at NCMC, they went into repayment, and 53 of them defaulted on their student loans. Obviously, 53 seems kind of a small number compared to the 458,000, but that makes me really sad to think of 53 students that, walked the halls and Cross and Geyer and came over to the financial aid office for help, that 53 of them defaulted on their loans, and they're dealing with those consequences of default and that damaged credit rating. And I just hate to think that. And I would say we just don't want that for any of you. One last thing, Inceptia. NCMC has partnered with Inceptia to help our students, our borrowers, as they go into, after they graduate, they go and enter into their grace period. If you've taken out a student loan, you'll hear from Inceptia. And then throughout the repayment process, if you're falling behind on payments or anything like that, Inceptia will contact you. So when you hear that name, when you see that name in an email, you get a phone call and it's someone from Inceptia, they are a friend of NCMC. They are there to help you. And we just wanted to include this slide so people would become more familiar with the name Inceptia. Okay, so thank you guys very much for listening, and this is really, I feel like it's such important information, and we've talked about some really great habits that you can start now. Just remember, the financial aid office is over in Alexander Student Center. We're there to help you, to answer questions, to help you complete your FAFSA. Make sure you turn in an NCMC scholarship application. I know it's for next year, and if you haven't turned one in this year yet, you can still turn it in. They'll still be re-awarding scholarships in the spring, but the new 2021 scholarship application, it's going to be available, I would say, within the next month, and so that's something to be watching for. And just remember, if you're taking out student loans, to really borrow smart, really think it through, and remember that student loans do have to be repaid. Thank you, guys.